How's it going? My name is John Ormer. I'm here. We're reporting with She Got Game. I'm here with our lovely guest. It's been a great honor. It's a wonderful honor to have you on just to take time for us. Before I introduce you and let everyone know who you are, I just want to, give you your flowers. They're photographers who document games, but, with that being said, they're photographers who change the way you kind of view it. On any given night, you'll find her courtside, camera up, eyes locked in, smiling, making certain connections. Her photos don't freeze action, right? Instead, it catches the heartbeat. Her photography shows a very different aspect of the game, and she captures it in such a way it's almost like art. With that being said, she moves the hoop with culture, not around it. The athletes trust her. She's really becoming something big in the sports realm. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our special guest, Jody Ho. How's everything going with you?
Hey, well, going well.
My dog, man. No, this means a lot, man. I get to talk to a lot of people in our space, players, coaches, reporters, but it's a real honor to have you on. Especially as our first photographer, so I really appreciate you taking the time out on this Friday. I know you're running and gunning, and the She Got Game family is really excited to have you on, so we appreciate you.
Shoot. And you said first photographer?
For sure. First
Oh,
photographer on.
I love it.
100%, 100%. To kick off the episode, we always start with a special segment we have here at She Got Game, known as the She Got Game moment. This is a moment in your career where essentially, like everyone else, everyone has trials and tribulations kind of finding themselves, but this is a moment in your career where you knew you arrived. You knew this was a special moment for you, and you knew this is what I was supposed to be doing because I'm doing it at a high level. What was your She Got Game moment, Jody?
Ooh, great question. Um, and I'm gonna be honest, from starting my journey until now, I'm gonna say like honestly, I'm still on my way. I've grown in the space, but I'm also still growing. And so just think about the She Got Game moment. I wouldn't say it's like a big aha moment for me, but it's a series of little moments, I would say, that I've come across. And that would be like the times where people may have come up to me, or I might be just chatting up with someone, and people would recognize me by my work or my Instagram handle. They'd be like, "Are you what you do, Jody? Like, I've seen your work." And that to me is just like, dang, like that means the work's been working. Like I think it's this buildup of those moments that's like every piece is a, building block to me becoming like who I'm meant to be, who I'm supposed to be, like the purpose of this journey.
Absolutely. No, that's a wonderful answer. I think it's a very humble answer too. I think because there's so many moments you could have just chose from. You have a lot of great work out there and you've been able to collab with a lot of great players, artists, because you also do things outside of basketball as well. Like, you're a very versatile photographer. So I appreciate you for sharing that with us. And pretty much for people at home who may be following, just simply just keep working. That's all just keep working and keep trying to build the blocks, like you said, and the recognition will come, it sounds like. Speaking of photography, I kind of want to dive into when you're like in these spaces at, your courtside, camera in hand. Can you kind of like describe the moment, like where, what you're capturing is more than just basketball? Or can you kind of dive into the storytelling of your photography for a bit?
A lot of the skill in capturing photography is it starts with people watching, I'd say.
Mm,
Like, you come into the scene, you kind of just like my eyes are just always kind of like
okay.
looking around, like kind of like checking out, what's so and so like, maybe talking about what emotions are they showing.
Mm,
Then you watch the players, like who's really like trying to go off, and like who's gonna stand out.
ugh,
Who's got like a unique style. A role player not even like doing too much, like they might have unique tattoos. They might have like some they're wearing. If something catches my eye, shoot it. Because then I can, if I don't know who that person is or something, like then I can find out. I can do research and be like, oh wait, that actually is something meaningful. That's something to report. That's something to show people. And
so,
but if you think about it too much and you miss that moment to capture it, like it's always kind of like, oh man, I could have caught that. Versus like if you shoot first, like is golden. Yeah, I would say like instincts are just like just shoot what catches my eye, and that's worked out great in many ways.
Absolutely. It definitely does. Kind of speaking of that, because like even just having the process of that, like the people watching having the eye for the right thing, what was the first photo that you took that made you say, okay, yeah, this is the one?
Ooh. It's funny because when you're developing like as a photographer, as a creative,
Hmm.
and you're in different phases of your journey, it's like when I look at the photos when I first started, I'd be like, dang, like Jody, you had some work to do. Like you had some growing to do on like perspective and like but back then I was just like, dang, like I remember just thinking like, oh, my shit's tough. Like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? I really can't pinpoint any.
Oh.
It's like there are moments from each shoot, and you shoot that one, like there are tough photos from like each shoot. We're like, oh yeah, like that's the one from this
Hmm.
series. But
Hmm.
after a while, man, like there's a few like headshots I can name where one that probably rings a bell is like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Brilliant. Yep.
It was just in a TV show premiere. He was sitting in the chairs. It was like darkly lit. And I just saw the profile view. I was just like, let me just capture that. And like in post edit, I was just like, let me just make it a mood like black and white. So
Mhm.
stuff like that. I think that would probably be one of the more memorable ones. But
Okay.
out of all the photos I've taken, like it's so tough to choose favorites.
I was gonna say, man, which leads me is a perfect segue into, my next question is for people at home, you're based in the West Coast. You're based in, you're LA, this is that's who you are. You're embodied by it. With that being said, how much or how important do you think that has played into your career? Having access to the Clippers, having access to possibly, if you really wanted to, Golden State, the Lakers, etc. Just kind of being surrounded by that and being able to be surrounded by such great players. The opportunity. How has that kind of shaped your career?
I would say like being in LA definitely is a blessing.
Yep.
It's like, LA, Hollywood is just known for people coming here for all the opportunities, fame, all that. So that's where, you will find celebrities, you will find top players here. So I would say it's definitely a blessing.
Hmm.
I don't know what to compare it to because I don't know anything other than West Coast being in LA, so this is all I've known.
100%.
But yeah, definitely lucky to never be for lack of opportunities here. And yeah, like I definitely when I bump into people that are talking about moving to LA or just coming to visit, like I always do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Waiting for like you're gonna have opportunities here. You gotta at some point like find your way here, whether it's just for one event or
yeah. Hmm.
time period. Like there's always something going on here, and especially in the hoop scene, there's nonstop basketball hoops all around. So
Yeah, of course. I was gonna say, also, like, so I'm based in Jersey, and I'm based on, the East Coast here. We have to unfortunately deal with winter, and we have to deal with, snow, and it's a different type of beauty. I think it's a different form of beauty. However, but Cali, you guys get track all year, you guys get basketball all year, you guys get football all year. You guys, it's a more sport friendly, I would guess, state to a degree. And that also just, is a wonderful it just gives you guys a lot of, like you said, opportunities, whether you're trying to make a scene on the street side of things, whether you're trying to go on the professional side, and then not to mention the tons of colleges you guys have as well. So it just it is a sad reality, but being from a place, opens up a lot of opportunities depending on where you're from or where you're willing to move. So I thank you for sharing because I think that's a huge part of anyone's journey, like where they're from and what access do they have and things of that nature. Kind of to mention that, right? You've been able to shoot, and I want to just highlight specifically when you shoot because there's a lot of photographers who are talented and take good pictures, right? But there's an aspect like where your photos, the way you're shooting, where you're possibly editing, it's almost like while your photos are still, they almost still give like a motion picture in a way. And it's really cool. I don't know how to like explain it. Photographers will know what I'm saying. But there's a feel to your type of photography that you're able to capture. How do you think about certain movements when you shoot? I know you kind of mentioned the people watching stuff, but when the game's actually going on and you're getting certain shots and you're getting certain things where it's not just this guy's tired of drinking water, like you can physically see, oh, this is late in the game, this is crunch time. You can see the intensity on his eyes. Real sports lovers of you, I think your type of photographer a little different because it captures certain details that are precious to the game. Can you kind of just explain what are you looking for during the game to kind of capture these specific moments?
Like for sports photography, the cool thing
Mhm.
about it when you're walking into a game is
Yeah.
you you have an idea of like how it's going to run, obviously like warm-ups, tip-off,
Mhm.
but then on the other side is like there's always the unexpected in games because obviously not scripted, it's not
100%.
yeah, like pre-planned. So it's just like you never know. So there's always that chance of like exciting moments or like fights breaking out, something. So the thing is, like, you always kind of like gotta be trigger ready in a way. And if I told you like how many, and it's all of us, like how many times we like, I missed that.
Mhm.
Like that stuff haunts us as photographers. Yeah, I'd say kind of just like pick it up as the game's going and just try to think of ways to like capture it in a different way because, with photography, sometimes it can get repetitive in the
Mhm.
sports world.
I think what you're saying is accurate. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, I've seen tons of great photos, but I there's a point in time where like it could get repetitive. You start getting comfortable with certain shots, and now you're just getting same shots as just different people, and it still looks great. It's all in the details, and I think with your photography, at least what I've noticed, I haven't seen three photos that look the same. You know what I'm saying? There might be similar people walking down, but there's like a different facial expression. There's like they're wearing something different. Like whether sometimes what you're capturing in the picture doesn't seem to be capturing the person. It's more like the style or whatever they're wearing, which is really cool. And that's what I mean. It's just like it's you have found a way to find things in your photography that kind of separate them from others, even themselves, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I'd say, yeah, it's almost kind of like a game for myself because to keep me from getting bored of like taking the same shot. The cool thing is, it's like with using the camera as equipment and then just our knowledge of the settings, like we can only do so much to capture the settings and like the timing of pressing the button to freeze that moment. And it's like the exciting part is kind of like seeing what you get to capture because it's like you don't know
Mhm.
for sure, like, oh, this is how it's going to come out. So it's like, with sports too, it's like you have constant moving subjects, just like catching fire from moments and people that like really aren't even just like staying in one place or like knowing that you're shooting them. It's just like, dang, that's the fun part of being able to capture like just trying artsy things. And sometimes you'll find like pockets of light where I've seen a lot of very
Mhm.
talented friends of mine play with and just like that's where the real game is and like seeing the creativity in the eye of like fellow creatives like that cool part.
Crazy because when you get in a room of creatives or you get like around that energy, it is something euphoric, especially when you kind of feed off that too. It's like it's really cool. So, and that makes sense. I mean, look, you shoot the way you shoot, probably because you're surrounded by other talented photographers, and you guys probably push each other. So that's really cool. Um, I want to tap into a little bit of just like there's a culture aspect, right? Like you are in a male-dominated area, however you want to put it. I think times have changed and things have been moving in a progressive manner, but the reality is it is a male-dominated field, and not only are you just a woman, but you're an Oriental woman, and with that being said, you're embedded in the West Coast culture, which is kind of cool within itself because the West Coast got its own swag, its own the way they talk, and it's an energy, and you could tell by your style like this is really who you are. You're not an implant. That being said, being Oriental women, embedded in the culture, but being surrounded by men, has this ever been overwhelming for you? And what are some of the adversities you've had to personally overcome throughout the industry or throughout your journey?
I think it was just like maybe a couple years ago I was just like talking to a couple of my creative friends
Okay.
and we were just we always have conversations about how we're doing, how we can elevate. My circle's like real ones because it's like we really just like tell each other like, yo, you could really be doing this, you could really be like capitalizing on this. And they were telling me like, yo, Jody, like you're like one of the only or one of the two like Asian women in the field around here. And I'm just like, oh, like, okay,
Never picked it up,
like,
never noticed. Yeah.
I'm like, really? Yeah, because I'm like, obviously, when I see someone I can relate to, I'd be like, oh, yeah, good to see you here. But I never really like think about it. They were saying just like, yeah, like you really got to highlight that or emphasize it in some way. And I'm like, okay, okay. Like I'd say like any times I can like really highlight, my background and culture, like I'm really happy to. It's been a journey, but I've grown to become so proud of my ethnicity culture. The other part of it being in the male dominated field, I'm gonna be honest, that doesn't overwhelm me in any way. For some reason, I just kind of always felt comfortable, like amongst the boys, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I've had a background of just like being in male dominated fields, like little known facts before I started my creative journey and all that. I was working in the automotive industry for like over 8 years. So I worked with cars.
Okay.
I worked like, so it, I just like, it's kind of a thing I'm used to. Like, I'm used to being a woman in a male dominated field and like owning that. And like, that's a
Mm,
big part of my persona is like owning that, like as a
mm,
female. Each year on National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, I'll kind of like look through back through my photos and I'll get photos that people have taken of me working in the field. And it'd be a lot where like five photographers, 10, whole room,
yeah.
like men. And it's just like there's so many where it can highlight it's just me being the female in there. And I
Mhm.
don't really, I mean, I take pride in that. Like honestly, like it's not intimidating at all. It's just like I take pride, like,
Yeah.
what's up?
Yeah. It's the most West Coast thing in the world, man. It's funny, man. I think New York, 100% New York, Jersey over here, we have an absolute own swag. We have a different type of confidence. It's like a little bit in front of your face a little bit. But West Coast has always been that, just like super chill, super cool, go with the flow, and it makes sense, man. It makes sense with your persona and just that's what you just roll in with the punches and you're like, hey, look, I could do this too. That's really cool, man. That's really cool, especially for young girls and people who will see this. It's like, sometimes not being overwhelmed and being cool, calm, and collected could kind of benefit you as well, kind of just embracing what it is and then finding your niche. I think that's always what it is, just finding where you stand out. It's funny we're talking about, your confidence level and things of that nature because a lot of people have to develop that, right? Like not everyone unfortunately just come in, with that type of swag. So, with that being said, when you shoot with confidence and instinct, right? What is the one, or let me ask you this, what's one camera tip that you've gotten or received that changed your entire approach and how you shoot and everything?
Mm. I think the one that comes to mind, because I'd say definitely confidence in shooting has been growing too each year. Like I didn't
Mm.
come into it with a confidence. It's funny because it's one of the most basic photography. Like once you're in it, it's like but it's like to shoot in manual. Because like
Ah, okay.
versus auto, because like experienced photographers would be like, you're shooting in auto. Yeah. But I've had previous experience with cameras, like shooting. I had a Canon through college, like just for fun.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but when I started the sports journey, I was put on to Sony, and it was just like a whole different camera that I didn't even really take the time to sit down and like learn
Mm.
settings for. I just kind of went with it. I knew the rules, like the basic rules, and I just like
Yeah.
set these up. I was really I just knew like I'm like, okay, the shutter, I gotta freeze the action. So I had a high shutter speed. Everything else was pretty much like auto. And I really had to like transition into knowing that like, oh, you shoot manual, you can really dial down the settings, like it'll help you in editing and
Mm.
then shooting in raw. Just having more ability to control the edits that you're gonna come out with. So yeah, I'd say the camera tip is just to really get comfortable knowing your camera settings and shooting manual and, just like learning. Because a lot of it's like every setting that you walk into, you're gonna have to like adjust your settings. So just like getting comfortable, being able to take your knowledge and experience of the surroundings and applying that to the settings that on your camera.
That's well, I mean, again, I'm not usually behind the camera, but I know it's its own world and its own language, so I'm pretty sure the people who are, they're gonna understand, what you're speaking about. With that being said, though, because unfortunately, I do think there's an aspect of just I think creatives unfortunately have been kind of attacked. I think in the last probably couple of years, and I think AI has kind of plagued many creatives for worse or better. Some creators really enjoy it because it has helped. I know with the editing and stuff, I know photographers and certain people love it. But there's an aspect of some people who don't, right? There's some people I think feel threatened by it or like, they just it could be detrimental, right? With that being said, how is AI personally, have you seen how it's affected your craft? And do you believe it's beneficial or detrimental, for photography in the coming years?
Because I definitely have come across posts where, yeah, that fear is kind of like being broadcast, like, oh no, AI is coming. Like, look, they can pretty much take any background and,
Yeah.
change around photos any which way. So we don't need y'all photographers anymore. But technology can only do so much. And, the art of photography is like still lives in the ideas and the eye of us photographers or art, just creatives in general.
So,
I would say novice photographers that can be really creative. Like you don't need the expensive equipment to be creative or like capture something like in a creative way. I mean, but AI can be dope too. I'm gonna be honest. With some parts of the job, there are moments. We're only human, so it's like there
yeah.
are moments we might miss. There are
Yeah, 100%.
things like that people might want, like certain results people want that may not be doable, but AI, it does bring a different, like whole different game. Like, oh look. Like, so I'd say in editing wise, if you could make like this whole person disappear from a photo, like I love that tool. I wouldn't say I'd be in